enterprise-wide across Chorus, we're undertaking a review of where representation is right now. Part of that is looking at on-screen representation or on the page, for example, in the audio space, same with, podcasting, things of that nature. We're looking at what's on screen, what's visible, what our audience perception is of our content, how diverse and representative our content is. And we're currently doing that across and piloting that across our entire business. When it comes to behind the scenes, we're also measuring, for example, on enterprise-wide, collecting self-identification data, as many federally regulated companies do. We're doing that. We're also looking at ways in which we can do that within our business, and we're exploring those options. Authenticity within storylines, which gets even more deeper, is something that we're also looking at.
There can be a tendency sometimes to view diversity, access, and inclusion as a bit of a trend, to assume that, we've done the thing, now it's done, as opposed to recognizing that this is an ongoing process that's going to allow this industry in its ideal form to reflect and look like the society we live in, from the very top all the way down. Unfortunately, there still can be a degree of tokenization that can happen with screenwriters from underrepresented communities. Sometimes, they're only seen for their identity and not for their creative voice beyond their identity.
What they need to do is improve representation for the Black, deaf, and queer community. Black, disabled, deafblind, people from the rainbow community, we're all here, and collaboration is key to open the door to see our stories, to see our experiences. And just taking up responsibility to learn our stories and hear from us and what they need to do to get access to those stories. And it takes time, but often people don't want to take up that responsibility. And so that's where, improvement, that's where more improvement needs to be done.
We've always done it like this, and be open to some of the new methods and approaches. We have a massive labor shortage coming across the country in the film and TV industry. And this is due to mass retirements. This is due to a lot of increased service production work coming into Canada from the United States and other countries. And all across the country, we know this. And the one of the simplest solutions, and not simple, but if we made things more accessible and we changed our systems to be more inclusive to those that need some accommodations, it could blow open the door.
As an industry, there's so many inconsistencies in how we are dealing with authenticity. Every fun broadcaster have their own internal requirements. And so producers are often having to manage different requirements for different people. And we do need some industry-wide authenticity standards, and some accountability in addition to the solutions for change.
We have been collecting self-identification data since 2020 through our crew deal memos. We've been amending it from time to time just to make sure it remains accurate and appropriate. But that has been an initiative that our company has undergone. It's an initiative that falls within human rights codes in Canada with regards to we don't ask for that information until after the person has been hired and contracted. But ultimately, we're collecting all this data and using it reflectively internally within the company to see where are we underperforming, where are we overperforming, how are we performing in trying to hit our goals. From a crew hiring standpoint, that is something that I'm keenly looking at. It'd be good to be able to formalize it, en masse throughout the industry, as opposed to just sort of ad hoc at our company.
We do collect self-identification information for data collection tracking purposes. We've only been collecting this information for a year now, but we have already evolved our process to make it both easier for creative personnel to complete their self-identification questionnaires, but make it more safe and secure so that they don't have to directly share any information with producers or companies that they're working with. But the biggest thing for us is we are a subjective fund. So our evaluation process allows us to better determine authenticity and gives us the ability to choose projects that showcase underrepresented voices and that are truly authentic.
What I really look to for our team when it comes to authenticity or representation or any topic that we're covering, whether sensitive in nature or we're featuring racialized communities or mental health, any topic of that nature, I ensure a few things. I ensure that there has been subject matter expertise involved, at least 2. I ensure that there's a producer or writer attached to it who identifies as being part of the community, who can, shed light or also have their insight involved. I also want to ensure that it's, at a time or being scheduled or that we're covering at a time where it's most visible to our audience as well. I don't want certain specials to be overnight when viewers aren't tuning in as much. So I look at a few different pieces when it comes to content and working with production. And those are things that I keep track of. My goal is to ensure that our business processes, our process of consideration is inclusive. So I'm looking at all those steps to ensure that, barriers to folks approaching us, to being a part of the creative process aren't there.
If we don't have people in the room who can have those conversations, then you get to a place where you put out a show that doesn't feel real, it doesn't feel right, and then you hear about it from the audience because it doesn't feel like the people who are supposed to be represented, they feel hurt. Instead of going 2 steps forward by being inclusive and representing someone, you're actually taking 3 steps back because you represented them in the wrong way. There are gatekeepers in this country that just don't understand the point of view of, I feel like, half of the country of Canada. And how do I get to a place where I can become a gatekeeper myself so I can open up those doors for people who actually do understand that half of Canada feels, quite frankly, feels ignored by Canadian TV. Authenticity is important because the shows that do it right and do it well, that half of the country that doesn't feel listened to, they'll see those shows and be like, oh, that person gets me. That person understands. That person at least cares about the point of view, about my point of view, and I want to connect more with that person or with that network or with that production company. So that's the way I think that to sort of help bridge that gap between audiences in Canada, the new audiences in Canada and the industry here in Canada.
These are emotional conversations. The nature of the work is very personal for people. And so my job in every meeting is to ensure that everyone understands the purpose of the work we're doing, that everyone is on board and feels comfortable sharing. If something's uncomfortable, is it a personal discomfort? Is it a operational discomfort? Is there other strains I may not be aware of that need to be considered? And I kind of approach it that way. I believe that in the process of measuring and having that accountability, we get better. And then when we start seeing setting targets based on the data we're receiving, then certainly I'm hopeful that we'll see more change